the fan base is going to feel this. I don't think the team really feels this at all. Like, I mean, I'm sure that they're told about it. They understand it. But am I supposed to expect Carson Schlesinger to come out today and be like, man, I despise for the Ravens for what they did in 1995. They played at UCLA and he got drafted by the Browns. He's excited to put on the uniform. He's excited to play for the team and the franchise, I'm sure. That type of thing probably just doesn't ring the same way that it does for lifelong Browns fans. You don't feel that same sort of passion. And if we're being honest, I didn't feel like Kevin did much this week to really bolster that and make that a strong emphasis for their team. They were more focused on X's and O's and trying to get in the win column.
Yeah, and I mean, you heard the team's best player this week, Myles Garrett, come out and say that he knows the Browns-Ravens history and he knows why people in this town despise the Ravens, and he carries that with him into every matchup because of how much Myles cares about the fans. But he even admitted, he said, that's usually an older crowd than I hang out with. I do hear it every now and then when I go and get gas. Like, that's the kind of, knowledge that these guys have, and that's coming from one of your longest tenured players. Myles Garrett, though, was a month away from being born when the team left in 1995, so these guys just weren't around for it. Obviously, the guys that aren't from here aren't going to truly understand it, so you can hope as a fan that they take as much as your fandom with you into this game as they possibly can. But for these guys, they're professional athletes. For them, they've got a job to do. It certainly felt like, hearing some of the quotes that came out of Berea this week, they're more so using the fact that they're 11.5-point underdogs as a bigger showing of disrespect and as a bigger motivator in this matchup than anything that had to do with the history and stuff. And you're right, Jake. Like, Kevin Stefanski kind of had an opportunity to maybe educate and coach these guys up a bit on the history of Browns Ravens and why Cleveland hates Baltimore so much, and really what the Browns leaving the town meant for the city and how bad things were for a couple of years there until the team came back. And ultimately, they didn't take that route. They didn't take the history route, and they took more so of the we're underdogs and nobody believes us, and we're going to use that to rally the team route.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of surprised to not see the Browns honestly do anything. I mean, I had thrown it out through the week, like, you have enough alumni, just Browns alumni sitting around this team that was there for the time. I mean, Bernie Kosar's all around the team, right? And there's more guys than Bernie, but Bernie's the first one that obviously comes to mind. But you're telling me you can't get Bernie or somebody else to come in and talk for 10, 15 minutes, explain what it was like to be around the team during the 80s, the 90s, and having that stripped away from this fan base and what it meant and how the city reacted, or bringing in, a lifelong fan connected to the team that they've had a connection with that was there for that time, that can tell you the pain that they went through, and they can come in and talk for 5 or 10 minutes just to rally the troops. If it gets you 1% more motivated for the game, it was worth the 5 to 10 minutes. I just don't understand that side of it. But clearly, again, this team, we talk about analytically driven. They're worried about the numbers. They're worried about the product on the field. That seems to be the main focus coming into this week.
And we shall see. I mean, if they go out there and they're competitive against Baltimore, if they go out there and they do the unthinkable and kind of shock the world and beat the Ravens up there in Baltimore today, then maybe we'll be humming a different tune come Monday. Maybe we'll be thinking a little bit differently about this entire thing. But one thing that the Kevin Stefanski detractors certainly have on him is the fact that he's not really a rah-rah guy. People will consistently question, especially after Browns losses, is this a guy that's really a leader of men? And when your best player this week said, talking about the team moving to Baltimore, arguably the biggest wound that we have in Cleveland sports, he said, well, that's usually an older crowd than I hang out with. I do hear it sometimes when I get gas. I'm sure a lot of fans will look to Kevin Stefanski if things don't go great today and say, dude, you dropped the ball. They literally had a dance party on your grave pregame when they brought out all of their legends and all of their history over the last 30 years. That's what we were building towards in Cleveland. How didn't you use that as a motivating factor? So for Kevin, I hope today goes their way, because if it doesn't, I guarantee that's going to be a talking point come Monday morning of people asking about did the coaching staff do enough to get these guys fired up, to get these guys motivated? Bring Hanford Dixon in for a speech and do his bark and explain the history of the dog pound that started at Old Municipal Stadium, and that was something that the fans picked up off of. Like, those old players love Browns fans. They love playing in front of this city and this fan base, and I hope this current iteration of the Browns feels the same way. I'm not quite sure.
Right, like I can sit here and, we can harp on Kevin, and it's something that depending on how this game goes in week 2, is certainly going to happen throughout the course of the next week. I don't know that you can question the passion and how much the Browns actually care, though, right? It might not be because of the 30th anniversary, right, but we certainly heard this week the Browns players not showing any love towards Baltimore. In fact, I want to play you guys something. Jerry Jeudy spoke to the media earlier this week, and you'll hear it here in the clip, but was asked about what challenges are presented to you in the secondary for the Baltimore Ravens.
Baltimore secondary, a lot of number one names back there. Just what are the challenges that group presents to you guys as receivers?
No challenges.
Listen, there was a lot of things said. We talked about, 11.5, 12.5 point underdogs. We've heard, Grant Delpit, Denzel Ward bull talk on that. We heard Grant Delpit say Derrick Henry's not hard to tackle. This was probably the most bold of it all, because this is not just, we feel disrespected by Vegas or we feel disrespected by the league. This is looking Baltimore in the face and going, you're nothing, right? Like, I'm not scared of you in the slightest. And you're essentially calling out the entire secondary if you're Jerry Jeudy, going, you guys can't hang. I'm about to go drop whatever stat line I want on you because it is going to be no challenge. I'm going to be open.
And it's a talented Ravens secondary. So, again, I hope Jerry Jeudy's right. That might be a theme this pregame show, because you look at that Ravens secondary. Okay, Marlon Humphrey. We remember how much Cleveland and Marlon Humphrey have a little bit of history dating all the way back to Odell Beckham Jr. in his time in Cleveland. Nate Wiggins, the other cornerback there. Obviously, Kyle Hamilton, the super talented safety. Like, that's a talented secondary. And while they didn't play awesome against the Buffalo Bills, that's Josh Allen, and you allow that comeback to happen at the end of the game. But again, that's Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills. I hope the Browns live up to the amount of trash that was talked this week. I really thought the Grant Delpit quote, where he said that Derrick Henry was easy to tackle, that's a quote that comes from a team that is absent leadership. I think a team that has good leadership would pull a young player like Grant Delpit to the side and say, look, dude, you haven't had a turnover. You haven't forced a turnover since week 2 of the 2023 season when you intercepted Kenny Pickett. Let's prove something on the field. Let's be about our business. Let's bring Derrick Henry to the ground with our actions, and then let the words come out after the fact. Because now, effectively, what Grant Delpit and Jerry Jeudy did is they wrote checks on behalf of the entire team that their teammates are going to go out there and have to try to cash. Like, it's not just Grant Delpit that's going to have to bring Derrick Henry to the ground. Your rookie second-round pick at linebacker, Carson Schlesinger, well, you just wrote a check that he's going to have to cash against the Ravens today as well. I thought some of those quotes were dumb. I don't have a problem that the team is trying to rally around this matchup. They're trying to get themselves motivated, try to find any way to go in there and get a win today, especially against the team that they probably understand is a little bit more talented. But I really just think you're giving extra bulletin board material to an opponent that doesn't need any. Like, Baltimore is looking for reason to bounce back after what happened to them in week 1. So why bring in any of this other stuff?
You see, that was the big thing for me. Like, I love the confidence. I love my players showing confidence. They played a hell of a game against a team that is expected to be a playoff team this year in week 1, right? Like, you should have beaten the Cincinnati Bengals in week 1. There is no doubt in my mind. There is no question about it. They should have won the game. You have reason to be confident. You also have everything working in your favor for this game when it comes to that bulletin board material you were talking about, right? You are the underdogs. You did lose in week 1. Everybody counted you out of the week 1 game. Everybody is certainly counting you out of this game. You have it all. Hey, the Ravens are just walking in, by the way, to a scenario they walked into last year, right? They didn't blow a 15-point lead in week 1. It was the Isaiah Likely toe tap game where his toes were on the white of the back of the end zone. They didn't score a touchdown. They lose to the Chiefs. What happened in week 2? They lost 26-23 to the Raiders.
Right.
A terrible football team.
Minshew.
Yes.
and the Raiders back then. So they're ensuring, in Baltimore that that's not a repeat, that this doesn't happen again. They understand, again, like we talked about in the first segment, this is a Ravens team that has serious playoff aspirations, AFC North aspirations, AFC aspirations, and ultimately Super Bowl aspirations. So they're not taking the Browns likely, but at the same time, they're looking themselves to have their little 30th anniversary celebration, all of that, but then take care of business on the field and improve to 1-1 and get their playoff season off the ground. Meanwhile, here in Cleveland, at least we know what it is as fans and as media. Like, it's a little bit of a retool season where we hope we could go up to Baltimore and play upset and play spoiler, but it certainly, to me, Jake, just feels like it's going to be uphill sledding all day today.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a ton of confidence in this game. We'll obviously get into it as the show goes on. I just don't know where the confidence comes from. You played well. Jerry Jeudy didn't have a fantastic day, right? Like, he had a fine day. Grant Delpit did not have a fantastic day. He played
3 or 4 tackles. And like the last time that he played Derrick Henry, the last week of the season last year, like, Henry ran for 140 yards. Like, this wasn't a guy that you were able to keep in check. Like, this is a guy that it was lunchtime for him against the Browns the last time that these two teams played. So some of the stuff was a little bit unfounded, and to me it really just showed, like, man, there's still no leadership. Like, there's still nobody that would look any of these two players in the face and say, dude, that was a little bit dumb. Like, maybe we keep that to ourselves. There's nothing wrong with saying that, like, to the locker room or to each other when there's no cameras and no media. Like, that time does exist. But to say that out loud, and then Derrick Henry reacted and said, we'll see what happens on Sunday. Okay, great. Now I'm worried to see what's going to happen on Sunday because you went ahead and upset the best running back in the league.
We've talked about 30th year anniversary. The other big news coming into today. Now, it's not official, right? We'll be waiting for the injury report by the start of it. But the fact that Quinshon Judkins was taken off of the exempt list, right? The Browns had an exemption for their 53-man roster to have Quinshon on there to get him up to speed to practice. They took him off there. They waived Gage Lardvadan. Quinshon Judkins is basically playing today. That's what I'm trying to tell you.
All signs pointing to the NFL debut for Quinshon Judkins today. It certainly seems that way. It's almost,
we would be stunned, right, Nick?
It's to the point, where, like, if he doesn't play, it's like, whoa, what happened?
Yeah, like, I mean, you wouldn't activate him if you weren't going to play him, I would think.
Right.
Like, unless you're trying to play ultimate mind games at the Ravens, which I don't know what you're really gaining from that. I would think that he plays in some capacity today. Now,
especially like Jeremy Fowler, Jordan Schultz, like you had the gauntlet of national reporters saying that Judkins is likely to debut today. That's them telling you that he's 99.98% going to play today.
Yeah, I don't know what capacity he'll be used in, right? We've talked about this throughout the week. I'm sure that JP and Lance will hit on this because I know that Lance talked about it with me on Friday. Pass protection is huge when it comes to these running backs and getting into the game if he was going to take a whole workload. He's had 3 days of practice at this point.
Right.
It's going to be hard to learn the entire pass protection in 3 days, and for them to feel comfortable to roll him out there. They will have him run the ball. Like, there's nothing that different about Kevin Stefanski's run scheme compared to the one he ran at Ohio State under Chip Kelly. They are very similar in the way that they operate. So he's going to be able to hand him the ball, let talent go win at some point. I don't know how much he'll be out there. But this is a run game that desperately needs it. I mean, they were horrible last week. They put 43 yards on the ground. There was a running back that took more than 3 carries that averaged more than 2.5 yards per carry. They were as bad can get. And I'll give the Browns their credit last week, right? I tip my cap. They supplemented the run game through, finding Dylan Sampson a ton in the passing game, utilizing the tight ends like Harold Fannin to get involved and have an easy check down and run him in routes that are going to be open and going to be safe. But they supplemented it through the short passing game. The run game cannot continue to be that bad, especially against a Ravens defense that is, miles ahead of where the Bengals were.
And not to mention, that Ravens offense has Lamar Jackson and Derrick Henry. So the more that you can run the football and do so successfully, the more that those very talented players are going to be standing on the sideline, waiting to get their offense back on the field. Jake, you hit the nail on the head. They cannot be as bad as they were running the football in week 1. Dylan Sampson, 2.4 yards per carry. Jerome Ford, what was that?
That was a horrible showing from Jerome.
Anything going. And you see why this was the backfield, specifically Jerome Ford, that the Browns were actively looking to move off of. That's why you draft Judkins and Sampson. And I do think today, Adam Schefter put the report out there in the early hours of the night this morning that it'll be a pitch count. They're going to ease Judkins back into this thing. It's not like he's going to get the king's ransom of runs right here today in week 2 in his professional debut, but you got to get that young man up and ready to go as quickly as you possibly can, because this run game is really bad. It's probably the worst in the league, and you're not going to win much games with what we saw Sunday.
Especially in a Kevin Stefanski offense. I do question, though, even bringing Quinshon back, how much that truly helps you, right? Like, I went back down, I broke down some of the tape. Now, listen, I'm not professionally breaking down the tape, right? I used my own 2 eyes. And just from watching the game, it wasn't like I'm just watching wide open holes and Dylan Sampson run into the back of his guard, or Jerome Ford run into the back of his guard. There was not a ton of room to go. Now, does Jerome Ford help you in a way that, and I'm not making the comparison, but just hear me out, does he help you in a way that Nick Chubb does, where he runs between the tackles and the first guy to try to bring him down, either Quinshon can shake him or he can run through him, fall forward, and get an extra 2 yards? Yes, absolutely. Quinshon helps you way more in that category than either Jerome Ford or Dylan Sampson. Do I look at a run game that I just look at the running backs and I go, they had no talent, that's why you failed? I don't think that's it either. Like, I don't know that just adding Quinshon back all of a sudden makes this run game. Like, I don't expect him to go out and run for 200 yards today. I don't know about you. That is not the expectation for what I have for this run game just because Quinshon's back.
No, not at all. I mean, it's unfortunate to say, because I would like nothing more than to sit here and ring the bell and say, oh, Quinshon's back. Like, that's a reason as to why the Browns can win today. My expectation, Jake, is that it maybe looks a little bit better than what it did last week. And I want to say that, and I want to be optimistic about that. But then I remember, oh yeah, looked that bad last week against a bad Bengals defense. Like, this is a talented Ravens team that the Browns are playing today. So I don't know how much better I could expect the run game to look, because I understand that the opponent is much more talented. I would like to think, though, that at least like the baseline bottom of the barrel, like slow baby step improvements, that Quinshon around the goal line or Quinshon on third downs can give you some tough, mad, angry runs that could move the sticks, that could get you a first down, that could potentially punch it in for a touchdown if the Browns get down there in the red zone. I hope he could give you some of those energetic, motivated runs that we were accustomed to seeing out of Kareem Hunt for years and years. Like, that's what I hope that we could get at an absolute baseline out of Quinshon today. I'd be happy with that, I guess.
I think there's a lot of areas he does help you, right? Like, as much as I think the offensive line needs to look themselves in the mirror this week and go, we have to be better in the run blocking scheme that we run. This is what we wanted to do, right? We talked about last year how much that offensive line hated that scheme.
Yep.
Because offensive linemen don't want to pass block. They don't want to pass block for a guy that's in shotgun. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is. They don't want to do that because, again, you become reactionary instead of
harder.
Yeah, instead of just going out there and performing and going and hit somebody. Offensive linemen want to hit somebody. But they need to look themselves in the mirror and say, this is what we wanted to run. We need to be able to open these holes. And that goes for the entirety of the 5 guys across. That goes for both David Njoku and Harold Fannin. That goes for my wide receivers. There were multiple missed assignments from the wide receivers in the blocking game. They all need to be better. Like, the run game is what you're going to hang your hat on. They need to be better. I like that Quinshon sets you up in different areas. I like that, if you're going to win first down, you're going to get 5 yards on first down. I like that opportunity for Quinshon over Dylan Sampson, over Jerome Ford. I think there's situational places where he does improve it. I don't want to act like this is just, hey, the offensive line wasn't good last week. Quinshon makes zero difference. I think he helps you in those moments. He helps you on, like you said, if you get to 3rd and 4, if you want to run a run play, or 3rd and 3, do I trust Quinshon to go get it? Do I trust him to go get me 3 yards? I hope so. Like, more so than anybody else. So I think situationally helps you. But again, I can't just look at it and go, okay, Quinshon's going to go for 80 yards today, and he's going to run the ball 17 times. He's probably going to have somewhere in the range of 6 to 10 carries.
Well, the other piece of Quinshon, right, and I know we all remember it very well from his Ohio State days, is there's a bit of home run hitter in there. So can we please maybe break a big run today? Yeah. Even if it is tough sledding, even if you are averaging 2 or 3 runs a carry and it's very difficult to run, could we break one loose today, man? Could Quinshon get loose in open space? Could they run a pitch to Dylan Sampson and let him get outside the tackles and work and make some things magic with his feet? Like, I think that's the kind of stuff that you got to look for, because if you're going to have a difficult time running the ball normally, then you might need some chunk plays here and there. So could we have a big run today? Is that too much to ask the football gods for? Is just one big run? And I'm not looking for it to break loose or anything like that. Like, could I get a 30 to 40 yard run today? Yeah, that'd make me happy.
I mean, listen, their longest run in week 1 was 5 yards. Okay, that is pathetic.
I want to say that was like one of the first plays of the game.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. I think Dylan Sampson took a 5-yard carry, certainly on that first drive. That was the longest run that you put up. I mean, that's embarrassing. You can't do it. I don't need you to, even if it's not a 30 to 40-yard run, right? If you can give me 8, 10 yards on a run, I at least start to feel better. 5 is, like, I expect you to put together 5 like once every 3 or 4 carries, right? Like, I expect you to break one off and you win a few blocks that get you 5 yards just being tackled and falling forward a yard or two. I expect that.